lot of memories happening today. Oddly enough, I was going to sit down and have a cup of coffee with you and talk about my dad, because today is his birthday. And I know I've been talking so much about my mom lately, and I know I've mentioned my dad a lot in past vlogs, especially when it comes to like cooking and being creative and being artistic and that kind of thing. But he was such a great guy, and he loved my mom so much. Lately I've been talking a lot about like a lot of parallels between him and Jim on certain things. Like, I would never call my father lazy ever, but my father did have this thing where he did not prioritize the care of the house or the beautification of the house because of his schedule. Like, my father worked at the job that he worked at, which was in Queens, which of course is a crazy commute if you don't leave early. So he used to leave every morning by 6 and come home after 6. So it's like 12 hours between the commute and the job. But the reason he had to be there so early was because he ran a, what would you call it, a subcontractor? Or yeah, subcontractor for like a construction company where they rented and hired and had people to drill holes in marble and concrete and all this stuff. So and he was also a machinist, so he repaired machines and stuff like that too. And he was the manager, so he had to get in early enough to send the guys out to their jobs. And then he had like a big block in the afternoon where he just had to be reached by phone. So he would go work at his friend's liquor store to like hang out with his friend. His friend from childhood actually owned a liquor store a couple of blocks from the office where he worked. So he would always be back in the office if there was ever an emergency soon, you know. A couple of blocks actually. Yeah, not even that far. So he worked this like what would really be like a 12 hours away from home. And then he would come home and finish dinner or completely make dinner depending on what it was. If it was like a quick meal, he would just make it start to finish. We'd all eat it like by 7 o'clock. And then if it was finished dinner, like one of us would start, like say the chicken, and he would make the rest when he comes home because he loved to do that. Excuse me. And then he would like watch some TV, fall asleep in the chair, and then go to bed. Which we all tried to be really respectful of not being too loud, but when we had friends over and we wanted to play board games and stuff, it was hard, you know? Be like, close my door. Make that sound a little bit better. And then on the weekends, he either like, depending on the time of the year, he either went like fishing or crabbing on Saturday for food. And then Sunday grocery shopping, or fishing or crabbing was off the season. Then he would go grocery shopping on Saturday and then cook like meal prep and stuff all day Sunday. So he always had something to do. And I said then he also had a garden where he grew vegetables and tomatoes, and he had to work on his car and his truck and that kind of thing. So a lot of the like house projects fell to the wayside. I fell on us too. So, you know, and then when my mom got sick, she had a heart attack. She had been bugging him for a long time to refinish the kitchen cabinets. And I remember when she had her heart attack, he was really like, let's do these for mom. And I was like, okay. So we stripped them all down to the bare wood and we painted them solid black. And when she found out, she was like, you had them stripped down to the bare wood and you didn't just stain them? Like, I thought you wanted them black, because they were black and blue at the time. So it took like that. It took things like that. My dad would never want to start a project without you, like in his younger days when he was working. I want to tell you that right off the bat, because when he retired, it was a different story. But he would never start a project with you. He would come in while you were doing it and help you finish it, because he wanted to get it done. But you know, my dining room floor, my house had hardwood floors and they were never finished properly, but living close to the beach, you would constantly without a finish on them when they would expand and contract, sand would get between the boards, and as they expanded, they would push the boards up. Basically, we had what we called a poltergeist, which really wasn't a poltergeist, but that's what we used to call it. We used to call the poltergeist between the living room and the dining room. There was this bump on the floor. But it started when I was a teenager and went to like, it was there when the house died. I'm just telling you. I mean, what I did was I trimmed boards down to make it flat so I could put a floor over it. But it was still like, we didn't actually ever get it 100% repaired. I did a repair patchy kind of situation. But at this point, it was like take up the whole floor or just patch it, really, honestly. So what to do to combat that, my mom would put like, the first year she combated it, worked really well. She put down a whole sheet of vinyl. And the fact that she taped the vinyl, they taped the vinyl at the end, the seam between the living room and the dining room, the tape actually kept the floor from buckling up. But then people sliding their chairs around on the vinyl ripped the vinyl, and then eventually, and this isn't over the course of 10 minutes, this was the course of a year or two. And then eventually the tape came up, and eventually the floor started buckling, and then it just became like a tripping hazard and the whole thing. So I remember, the reason I'm telling you this is because then we got to the next stage where we were peel and stick tiles. And we had a peel and stick tile floor that basically got worn down to, you couldn't even tell what the pattern was anymore. And then some of the tiles had cracked. The tiles that weren't walked on every day were cracking because of the heat and expansion and contraction, you know. So I got down on my stomach, got my heat gun and my scraper, and just went to town. I'd scrape off 2 rows and lay down 2 rows. Or scrape down 3 rows and lay down 2 rows. And then scrape down 2 rows and lay down 2 rows. And I would always be 1 row blank. And the reason I did it that way, the main reason is so that the lines wouldn't line up to where they were. The second reason was because the residue was so sticky from all those years of putting peel and stick tiles on your floor. There was no way we weren't going to have stuff stuck to it if I moved, you know, if I didn't go in, take off as I go kind of situation. And I knew at this point this floor wasn't salvageable. If we're ever going to repair the hardwood floors, it was going to have to be, they're going to have to be entirely ripped up and laid down again. That being said, I remember specifically one time, my mom had already passed. I started the project as soon as he left for work. And when he came home, I wasn't quite done because it really took a long time with the heat gun. So he sat where his chair was. His table wasn't able to go back, so he sat on his chair and he was like, let me hold the heat gun for you. Let me peel the tiles for you. It's like, that's when he would help me. And I know that it was probably more of like to get the job done for himself, to be able to relax and whatever. But it was also like, ask me questions. It looks really good. Say whatever he's got to say about it, you know. So it was just really good. But the reason I mentioned all of that whole story was about like, so Jim is kind of the same way. He's not self-motivated while he's working, but he's extremely self-motivated. Oh, that was the rest of the story about my dad. So my dad retired, like I told you about when he carved fish and crabs. He just would like, you'd come home, you'd wake up in the morning, he'd get up still, the butt crack of dawn, because he was on a fisherman's schedule, and I'd wake up at 8 o'clock, depending on what shift I was working, you know. I'd wake up at 7, 8 o'clock, and it'd be like 2 carved already. Like I didn't even hear the jigsaw going off in the morning. Like, how did you jigsaw this while I was sleeping, you know? And he didn't have a brand new like jigsaw. He had like a kong. You've seen it, right? I have it. That's the one I have. That's really loud. So I was like, yeah, he's very self-motivated when he was retired because he felt like he had to keep himself busy. And the same thing with Jim. Jim was off for the summer, tried to get another job, but he felt like he needed to just do something. He was very self-motivated in the summertime. When he's not working on the weekends, he's very self-motivated. But also like not, just like my dad was with my mom, not something that I want to do, something he wants to do. Like, you know, my dad actually unfortunately worked up until after my mom passed away, because he was still working when she passed away. She was 49, so he was just going to be 53. She died in August and his birthday's in September. So he was just a few weeks shy of his 53rd birthday. Yes, that's good math. So the projects when he started, about the carving, that wasn't like we needed more fish carvings in the house. If I have pictures, I would love to show them to you, like how you could sit in the dining room and like the fish were all going in the same direction and you got like dizzy.
Here's your reminder.
That means it's 5 o'clock. That means I've been talking for a long time. So that's what Jim is. Jim is self-motivated, especially when it's something for him. But I have to constantly encourage him to like get something for me done, or with me, or for the house, even for the collective, to speak in Star Trek terms. Anyhow, that all being said, all of that to say this. No, I'm kidding. All of that being said, that that's how he reminds me a little bit of my dad in those aspects of like he's very self-motivated when it comes to doing stuff for himself, but needs reminders and encouragement to do something for the family in the house. When my dad was retired, we built this great built-in, like, I just want to say it was a floor-to-ceiling cabinet. It was just this great cabinet we built for like extra counter space, storage. I decorated it the way I wanted to. I loved it. And when they tore it down after the flood, I was heartbroken. Because they had to tear it down to get behind the sheetrock and stuff. Because that wood was like finished, so it didn't need to be like, it was built in, so it had to come down to get to the sheetrock behind it. But in all honesty, it survived. It's just that we had to take it down, so. Sometimes I get really melancholy about things like that. About things like that with the flood. And I'm okay. We're about to be 10 years. October 29th will be 10 years since Superstorm Sandy blew through the little town of Island Park, New York. And knocked us on our butts, to put it mildly. Anyway, so my dad was an exceptionally extraordinary cook, fisherman. His fisherman friends even would say that they were sure he was a flounder in his previous life, or a fluke, depending on the time of year. I mean, a flounder is a fluke is a summer flounder, so it's just a matter of like they're facing their different directions and they're different sizes, but they're the same family. They were sure that he was a fish in his previous life. The way he would, speak to I know where the fish are. I know where the fish are. And that was the story until he got sick and couldn't fish anymore. Nobody was doing the business like they were before. And the way he could fillet them. He could have a cooler full of fish filleted before he got back. He always told me the story that you had to keep the tail and the head intact, so that if you got stopped by the not the Coast Guard, but the Waterways Fish and Game Wildlife guy, you had to be able to show that the fish was big enough. Because when you fillet it, it looks like fillets. It doesn't look like, when you get a chicken, you'd be like, was this chicken 5'6" or like a regular standard 18-inch chicken? Was this chicken brown, or was it, you really don't know. Same thing with fish fillets. Was this a giant fish, a small fish, a big fish? So what he would do is you'd have to keep the head attached to the tail, so he was able to like fillet the whole fish without cutting the head or the tail off. He is pretty amazing. I know none of his friends watch my YouTube channel, but if you are one of my dad's friends and you watch this YouTube channel, please just, tell me if I'm making this up. But for 100% sure, this is how I was told by his friends. Like, these are the stories I always heard from his friends. It was really hard when he got sick. He changed. He tried not to, but you could see it. He was my champion when I got married. He had gone through this thing where he lost his sense of taste, is the way he said it. And I assumed it was because he had quit smoking the year before and everything just tasted different. You don't smoke for 60 years or 50, 80 years or however long it was, and then quit, and all of a sudden, like, you can't, like, you can taste things, like, things won't taste the same, you know? I always just assumed that was the reason that things didn't taste the same for him, but he had just gone into this, like, strict rice, then he added peanuts and fish to have protein to his diet. And yeah, and that was his whole diet for a very long time. He lost so much weight doing this. And then we started to feel like, people were asking me, is your dad sick? And I was like, no, he just lost his sense of taste. And even my brothers and sisters and I were like, I think maybe he had a heart attack back then, and like maybe it scared him enough, or maybe he thought he was having a heart attack and then it scared him enough. But it's hard to know, you know. He did have trouble, physical health trouble, when he quit smoking, because your body's used to running on certain chemicals when it runs on certain chemicals for so long. And when you don't have them anymore, your body's like, where did all this oxygen come from? We're so used to working on 5% oxygen. Now we have 90% oxygen. What's happening? Not exactly like that, but you know what I'm saying. So, yeah, when he got sick and fell on the boat and stopped fishing, you can tell he didn't want that to be his life. And he changed. And he changed, not necessarily becoming hopeless, because he still tried and fought in the beginning. It was not until the very, very end, like the last time he hurt himself, that he realized, like, this is going to be it. You know, he's like, I don't think he didn't feel like he had any more fight in him. So I fought for him every day. And I was like, listen, not letting you die here. If we have to get a hospital bed and a Hoyer lift to get you to the house, I don't care. I'll rent the equipment. And I started making all the phone calls. And he decided that he didn't want that. You know, my nan was the same way. My mother was like getting ready to take her to the nursing home, and she's like, let me just take a nap. I love you, Nan. I mean, not to belittle your death, but that's really what happened. She just put her head down and she didn't wake up. She was like, I'm not going. And I felt like the same way with my dad. My dad made a promise that this was the last time he was going to see his house when he left for the hospital, before the nursing home. And then, you know, I was going to prove him wrong, but he was going to prove me right. So, Pop, this one's to you. I'm sorry my coffee has creamer in it that has some sort of sweetness in it, because we know that that's not acceptable. Black coffee with cream, instant coffee always, because, you know, great potassium. As a matter of fact, when he stopped, when his kidneys started to fail and he couldn't have any more potassium, that's probably when he really quit, because that meant no more chocolate, no more orange, which was like chocolate orange, Terry's chocolate. He would kill you for Terry's chocolate orange. He wouldn't really, but orange slices, potatoes. You could have like the canned potatoes, because the way they were processed had less potassium. But no more instant coffee. And he didn't want to have brewed coffee every day. He didn't want to brew coffee every day. So like he would still have it at restaurants and like weddings and stuff like that. But, you know, no more instant coffee for him. It was like, what's the point, you know? No more spinach. No more broccoli rabe. If you know, you know. So it's stuff like that. You think, like, maybe that's why. Maybe, like, the things that he enjoyed doing. Maybe he was just ready to go see my mom. Maybe because we were all doing our own thing, you know? My brother was 28 when my father passed away, and he was 26 and working when my father got sick. Well, he was 24 when, well, technically he was 24 when he got sick, but it was really 26 when he actually really got sick, when he had his heart attack and his bleed and stuff. My father was at home caring, like, just doing home things for about 2 years before he got like really sick, you know. He was still fishing. No, he wasn't. What was he doing? We were treating his leg wounds, and he was missing me every day. It was just sad. I didn't know that till after the fact. I mean, I kind of did, but I also kind of didn't. Like, he would say it, but he wouldn't say it into the degree that I knew now. I know now because he told me later on the degree he felt of abandonment when I went and got the job at the group home, so that I could have like just like a little bit of our own. You know, my brother was going to be home with him, so Jim and I could have a little bit of our own life after we got married. Just 6 years after we got married, you know, it was like time to just have our own little place, even if it was only for the Monday through Friday nights. Sounds silly, but yeah. But he was a man of not only extreme talents, but my God, was he funny. My father was, people will tell you, my father was so funny. And oddly enough, you want to think like Grizzly Adams was what came to mind for a lot of people, because almost my whole life, and when I say this, and I'll tell you in a second, almost my whole life he had a full beard and mustache. And the reason I say this is because my father shaved his beard every decade, I think my brother said, or wasn't every time he turned a 10, but every so often my father would shave just his beard and just have a mustache. But the last time that he did it, it was like 1972. And I was little. There's a picture of me with him with just a mustache at the church. But I never saw him. Like, I don't ever remember seeing him with just a mustache. So from like 72 on, he had a beard. So he did look like Grizzly Adams a lot. You know, especially when it was winter time and he put on like the heavy shirt and the hat and the, you know, like his wool hat cocked to the side a little bit. My father always wore a red hat, whether it was a red baseball hat in the summer or a red wool hat in the winter. It's like he knew that he would get noticed on the water or, you know, whatever if he wore a red hat. Red was his favorite color, just like mine. Blue. I want to say blue was Alicia's and my mom's. Janie's is green. I want to say Julie's was purple. But now I just realized I have got to call my sister Julie, because I don't know what her favorite color is. Or maybe what it was is different than what it is now. That's a great question. I don't really know. Yeah. Anyhow, this has been a really great up and down journey of emotions. And tribute to my Pop. Pop, I love you. Happy birthday, wherever you are. I'm sorry I couldn't go out and celebrate you today, but you know, you're in my heart every day. Every day. I know that he's up there cooking for everybody, because that's what he enjoys doing. And then fishing when everybody else is sleeping. But listen, I wanted to tell you guys that I also love you very much. It's true. If nobody's told you today that you're loved, you can always come by and hear how much I love you, because I love you very much. And you guys make it really special for me. You remind me to get up and enjoy an hour of coffee and sitting and talking and being up. My external feelings or my physical feeling and my emotional feeling don't really ever match. But today was one of those days that, despite my physical feeling, my physical energy, I had to get up and do something that matched my spiritual energy, because that's really where we're at with it. So I love you guys. I know I probably look exhausted. Lisa said that to me before. She's like, you just look like you're getting tired. And I was like, yeah. I could tell you it started around like 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and I was only up since 11:30. Oh, that's another thing I didn't talk to you guys about. I had scrambled eggs and sausage bowl for breakfast. And then I fell asleep for another few hours. My back rash was terrible. I woke up at 3:45 and I was up till after I ate my eggs. That's why I ended up falling back to sleep, but I told Jim, since my home health aide is switched today for Sunday. I said to him, I was like, sleep in a little bit because you don't have to get her, or like prepare for her, really is what it is. You don't have to prepare for her to come. I was like, so sleep in a little bit. And he set the alarm for 6, and at 5:40 I couldn't take it anymore. I had to wake him up anyway. I felt so bad. I was like, I am so sorry. And he looked at my back and he's like, it doesn't look like it shifted at all. And I was like, okay. And I'm crying. Like, I'm not crying. I'm shuddering with the pain, but like my tears are just pouring. Like I told you guys, this happens with my mouth. It happens with the pain. So when he woke up, like we were having coffee and I went to reach something, I was like, oh, I said, can you please just check this again? And even if it's fine, can you just put lidocaine on it? I know it's going to hurt. I don't care. So he went to check it again. He's like, oh my God, it did move a lot. And he's like, took the tape off and he put lidocaine on, and then it felt great. And that's why, probably most likely why I was able to fall back to sleep. So I ate my eggs, drank a couple sips of coffee, but really mostly just ate my eggs and I went back to sleep. I slept till 11:30. I just woke up on my own, which was great. Then I couldn't eat. I drank some coffee, talked to Lisa on the phone. No kids today, just cats, which was great. And then I realized it was past lunchtime, and I have not eaten again. So I put a protein shake in my coffee, and that's what that was today. And then after the protein shake, I was like, okay, so that's protein. Now I need dairy, so I had a string cheese instead of the yogurt. Yogurt's just like been just a little too phlegmy for me lately. I don't know. And then I had a pouch of mango, banana, kale. I had that, and then I finished my coffee. Well, I finished my coffee before the food, and I drank some of my water. I almost finished my water for the day too, which is good. But then I was like, let me have another cup of coffee and vlog. And I said, can I just have like a regular cup? And he goes, I mean like black coffee? And I was like, no, just like a regular cup that I would vlog with. And he gave me a Harry Potter cup. I said, oh, I was thinking like a Ray Dunn cup. And he's like, I just gave you the Harry Potter cup. And I was like, you know what? I'm sporting the Harry Potter look today. So let's go for it. So listen, I know I just wrapped it up and then re-wrapped it up, but listen, I love you. And as always, you guys take care. God bless. We'll see you next time. Bye.